Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place on the territory of Ukraine. The Russians made another massive missile attack against the territory of Ukraine, and mainly the Russians were focused on the southern area of Odessa, of the settlement by the name of Odessa. The Russians were attacking this port area. The Ukrainian sources published a lot of videos. The attack took place, as you can see, during the night. There were some explosions, there were some videos from that area, but for now it's very difficult to understand and to realize the real damage that the Russians managed to deal during the previous night. A very interesting update we got today from one of the Russian military experts. He told us that currently there are three areas, port areas in the vicinity of Odessa. There is southern one, this one, and as you can see, according to the piece of information we received, the Russians were focused in this area during the previous night. There is a central one, and these ports in the vicinity of the central part of Odessa, and there are probably the biggest one in the north of Odessa region, in the vicinity of a small settlement by the name of Yuzhny. So this port area has the name of Yuzhny. And as you can see, according to the updates we got during the previous days, the Russians attacked the Ukrainian ports in the south. The Russians attack Ukrainian ports in the middle, in the central part, but we haven't received any photo or video confirmations of the attack in direction of the northern port. Furthermore, the Russian military expert Yuri Podolyak suggested that probably the Russians are trying not to burn every single bridge. Probably the Russians also need to save and need to have the grain deal, and this is the reason why the Russians haven't yet attacked the northern port area, and they're like trying to say that there are still possibilities to save the grain deal. There are still possibilities to return to this situation, but first of all, you need the Ukrainians and the Western countries. You need to complete your part of the deal. But as I understand, if the Ukrainians and the Western countries are not going to complete their part of the deal, sooner or later the Russians will destroy this port as well. Furthermore, today some sources published the let's say the sea jam in this area. As you can see, lots of ships stuck in the vicinity of Odessa region and the Black Sea on the south of Odessa. Currently they're they are not continuing their movements in direction of Izmail, and basically all these ships are heading in direction of Izmail, not in direction of Odessa but in direction of Izmail. But they're also not moving because they understand that there are very high risk being attacked by the Russian forces. Now we're moving to the ground, and we're going to discuss the Vremivka. The Orechov bridge had the Bradley Square. During the previous day and this night, the Ukrainians made a lot of attempts to attack the Russian positions on the western flank, and there were some developments on the eastern flank of the Robotyne. The first reports we got somewhere at 10 p.m. that Ukrainians made a very powerful attack in direction of the western flank, trying to develop and to move Russian positions as far as possible from the supply road. The next update we got somewhere at 12:30 p.m. and the Russians reported that there was a very fierce fighting. The Ukrainians were using Western weapons, the Ukrainians were using a lot of infantry, a lot of volunteers from the Western countries, so that was one of the biggest attacks since the beginning of the Ukraine counter-offensive operation. But yet we haven't received any photo or video confirmations of destroyed vehicles and so on. And just at 9 a.m. the Russians reported that as a result of fierce fightings, the Ukrainians were completely defeated and they were forced to step back. There were a lot of losses among soldiers, among infantry, among troopers, but yet we haven't received any video or photo confirmation. I believe that today the Russians will publish more updates and will provide us more evidence of the battle on this flank of Robotyne. On the eastern flank, the Ukrainians, after they managed to develop and to force the Russians to step back closer to Verbova and Robotyne, the Ukrainians continue developing and the most important demining process in this area, trying to prepare safe roads for Ukrainian forces for upcoming offensive operation. On this video we see how the Ukrainians, using the tanks with the demining equipment, were trying to demine this area and to create a safe passage for the Ukrainian Ukrainian forces. The Russians, of course, also track this territory, and of course they try to control and to bomb and to attack the Ukrainians who enters this gray zone. Now we are moving further to the Vremivka tactical bridgehead. We haven't received any updates during the previous night, just another video, another geolocated confirmation of territory control. This video shows that Ukrainians controls the area on the south of Novodarivka. The Ukrainians tank made an attempt to attack Russian positions, but he was attacked by the Russian forces, and for some reason this tank fell down inside of some small lake or something like this. And now we are moving to Donetsk, and we got more updates from Marinka, and to be more precise, from the coal mine. The Russians still control this territory, this bridgehead. The Ukrainians haven't managed to force the Russians to step back. Probably the Ukrainians have lost their time, and currently, as I understand, the chances that the Ukrainians are able to return control over this coal mine reduced till minimal, till zero. But the Ukrainians continue attacking the Russians in this area using drones, using FVP drones. On this video we see how the Ukrainians were trying to attack the Russians that were hidden inside of the coal mine. Some on the ground levels, they were just trying to attack the door, probably. I don't know what the Ukrainians were trying to do with this attack. Also, the Ukrainians published another video how they were attacking the Russian infantry, Russian reinforcements that were heading among the fields in direction of the coal mine. As you can see, the Russians somehow managed probably to suppress the Ukrainian artillery, Ukrainian drones, and currently, as you can see on that video, this video is geolocated, the Russians were moving along the fields in that direction. So they probably think, and they're much sure that this road is more or less safe. Now we're moving further, and we're going to talk a little bit about Avdiivka. As we discussed in the previous videos, there was a lot of video confirmations that Ukrainians continue their attacks in direction of Krasnohorivka, and for these purposes the Russians have just few solutions how to reduce the Ukrainian activity in this area, and one of the solutions is to suppress and to attack the supply roads that leads in this direction. And the Russians published another video how they are bombing and shelling Ukrainian positions in that small settlement. This video, according to the author of this video, the Russian claims that they managed to discover and to track the Ukrainian warehouse of ammo, of armored vehicles. There were some number of personal armored carriers, maybe tanks. The Russians discovered that hangar and that barrack, and after that they started bombing and shelling. Anyway, there's like a video, but this video doesn't tell us the real number of Ukrainian armored vehicles that were destroyed as a result of that attack. Now we are moving to Klishchiivka, to this area, and today, during this night, we got a lot of videos and so on. And as I understand, this video, for example, tell us that there is a tank, armored vehicle, Ukrainian armored vehicles that managed to get this forest, the northwestern part of the most important fortifications, the hill 215 meters, and the Russians claims that as a result of artillery attack they managed to destroy that armored vehicle. But as you can see, that armored vehicle was without the personnel. So basically the Ukrainian forces have landed in the vicinity of this forest, and they managed to capture the ex-Russian positions, that forest, and they left the armored vehicles on the fields, and the Russians just destroyed that field. But it doesn't mean that the Ukrainians haven't entered the forest. So basically, as I understand, according to the updates we have, the Ukrainians managed to capture at least this forest as well, and basically the Ukrainians controls this bridgehead on the west-northern part of Klishchiivka. The Russians reported that as a result of counterattacks they managed to return control over this part of the fortifications of the stronghold, but yet we haven't received any video confirmation of the Russian progress of their counterattacks. So for now we will update, and at least for today, or for the morning part of 20th of July, these area under Ukrainian control. Very interesting updates are coming from the north, from Soledar, from the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade and 115th Mechanized Brigade. As I told you, according to my understanding, this is one of the most interesting part of the front lines that is not presented by anybody, but the Ukrainians continue attacking, continue increasing their pressure against the Russian positions. And for example, today the Ukrainians published the video of the usage of GDIM airstrike bomb on the Soledar against Soledar stronghold, Soledar fortifications. So probably, as I understand, understand this is maybe one of the rare videos of usage of this type of guided bombs from the Ukrainian side. The Ukrainians probably destroyed or tried to attack the Russian accumulation of forces or their stronghold. And as you can see, the Ukrainians continue suppressing Russian defense belt on the line between Razdolovka and Soledar. So we can say that the Ukrainians continue preparation, their counter-offensive operation in the direction of Soledar, because as soon as Klishchiivka falls, if Klishchiivka ever falls, and as soon as the Ukrainians are able to push the Russians to step back on the eastern side of the railroad ways, the Ukrainians will activate their offensive operation in the direction of Soledar. So it will be this. So the forces in Klishchiivka will have a small operational pause. They will dig in deeper in these fortifications like Klishchiivka, Kurdyumovka, and Zaryanovka, and they will change their focus on the northern flank, and they will start attacking the Russians in the vicinity of Soledar. So currently the Ukrainians have already started the preparation of that upcoming offensive operation, and soon we're going to see more actions in this area. Furthermore, the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade continue publishing video of bombing and shelling of the Russians in the vicinity of Berestova. This is another evidence of preparation of upcoming Ukrainian attack in this area. For now, they're just trying to reduce as much as possible Russian forces, and after that they will launch offensive operation in this area as well in direction of Berestova, or probably just to secure the flanks that will allow the Ukrainians to start attack in the direction of Yakovlevka. Very interesting situation. I think that the Russians need to pay more attention to this bridgehead if they don't want to get knife in their back. Now we are moving to the Tarskoye salient, to Kreminna forest. Today we start receiving more video and photo confirmations of the battles of the previous days. Very interesting video we got today from Grigorievka. It's the settlement that located between Serebryanka and Bilogorovka. The Russians forces managed to discover the Ukrainians, let's say, traffic road between the two banks of the river, Seversk Donetsk River. As you can see, this is not a bridge, this is just a regular road that the Ukrainians were using to transferring some forces, supplies, support, and so on. The Russians managed to discover, and after that the Russians, using the artillery forces, managed to destroy that area and managed to destroy the Ukrainian forces who were located on these banks of the river during that process. Anyway, this video confirms us that maybe the Russians are not don't control this small salient on the north, and maybe this area, because the Ukrainians do have some possibilities to send forces, and they're sending forces there. The Ukrainians controls probably this part of the forest, Kreminna forest on the south, in this area on the north of Grigorievka. Another video we got from the Tarskoye salient, and probably today we got the first confirmation of some advances and active clashes of the Russians on the northern flank. This video is not like of 20th of July, but this video shows how the Russians were trying to attack the Ukrainian positions during the storming process of the Ukrainian edge positions along this forest line, using the as you can see, the light vehicles, light weapon. The Russians were trying to bomb and to destroy the Ukrainian forces that had their positions on the corner of this forest line, and we haven't received any updates about the further developments of the Russians' advances in this area. But anyway, at least this is the confirmation that the Russians managed to develop their bridgehead to the north of Tarskoye salient as well. And we haven't received any updates from Kupiansk and so on. The only thing we got is that the Russians reported that the Ukrainians launched another few counter-offensive operation in direction of Karmazinovka of the forces of 67th Mechanized Brigade, but the Ukrainians got on minefields, and after that they were destroyed with artillery fire. As a result of those attacks, the Ukrainians lost 5 personal armored kills, armored vehicles, and 2 commando squads were destroyed on this bridgehead that the Russians managed to establish as a result of offensive operation that took place during this and the previous week. And that's it. This is not the last update, and a very interesting update we also got from Belarus, from Wagner's, from their area. Today we got the final statistic of the battle of Artyomovsk and the history of Wagner on the territory of Ukraine. The Russians are saying that more than 78,000 of Wagner Wagners took participation on the territory of Ukraine during the battle of the southern and the eastern part of Ukraine. 49,000 soldiers, Wagners, came from the prisons, and but on the time of taking Bakhmut on the 20th of May, there were around 22,000 killed, around 40,000 were wounded, and 25,000 left the territory of Ukraine completely safe and completely healed without any problems, and around 10,000 soldiers left the territory of Ukraine and were redeployed to the territory of Belarus, and around 15,000 soldiers took a vacation currently is in vacation. For now it's interesting where these 15,000 soldiers are going to return back to the territory of Belarus or to the Ukraine and to help Russian army to defeat the Ukrainians somewhere in the vicinity of Bakhmut, Artyomovsk. And now that's it for this video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.